Yeah, mate. Oh, there you go.
Hello, everybody. And welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 8th of January, 2023. Tonight on a Sunday, there has been some changes to some of my scheduling, so I have come on tonight on Sunday to round up a busy week of news. We were last on air on Tuesday, but we are on air again Sunday this week. And there will be some changes to come into my show very, very soon, due to me potentially starting full-time work in the future. So I'll let you know on that. But tonight we're here to bring you news, plenty of it, in fact. I'm joined by late party supporter Zach Chambers around all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Now, I'm going to start off tonight by talking about the US House of Representatives election for Speaker. As you guys would have known, this has been a big talking point in the United States political world at the moment. You might have heard last year Nancy Pelosi standing down after a long reign as Speaker of the House of Representatives, also part of the US Congress, which is US Parliament, in other words, and very similar to what we have over here with the House of Parliament, House of Commons, House of Lords. But it's in the lower house where Kevin McCarthy takes on the role as Speaker of that US House of Representatives. And Zach, for Republicans, it was a huge appointment for them, but it wasn't exactly easy for Kevin McCarthy, wasn't it?
No, let's just put it that way. It was not easy at all. Normally, speakership elections, when a party is won, is pretty simple. The party that gets the most seats wins control of Congress and normally gets their speaker. So we've seen many years of Nancy Pelosi, when Democrats have won, get the speakership quite easily, even when some of her own party don't necessarily support her. They vote present, really, to be fair, just so that they can lower the threshold to get the speaker's election. But what we've recently seen, Charlie, has been a completely different affair, because Kevin McCarthy is the leader of the Republican in the House of Representatives, and he's been there for quite a while. So, obviously, he was preparing, if his party won in Congress, to become the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Very simple as that. Now, his party won in November. He won 212 seats, 213. As well to the Democrats. So 222 Republicans, 213 Democrats. On that maths, Kevin McCarthy would have enough votes to become Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, you may think, oh, yeah, that's simple as that. He's got enough votes. He's going to get through. He's going to become the Speaker and everything like that. Well, it wasn't that simple. It became apparent into the build-up just before a few weeks and a few days ago, before the speakership election, that Kevin McCarthy was losing votes. We had Matt Gaetz going around Conservative Network saying that he wouldn't support Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. We then had Ralph Norman saying the same, Bob Good as well, and a few others. There was also, I think, eventually a few very unknown names, but very conservative voices that wouldn't support him. And then came along Chip Rory of Texas, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, who's the leader of the House Freedom Caucus. For the Republicans as well, they said they were not going to support McCarthy based on meetings and possible concessions that they didn't offer at the time. So then when we got to the vote on Tuesday, yes, it was Tuesday on the 3rd, where they elect a speaker, Kevin McCarthy did not have the numbers. There was initially 19 of them that did not support Kevin McCarthy, and then as time progressed, as they went to multiple rounds of ballots, he did not have the numbers. So there was a lot over the next couple of days, been a lot of behind the scenes work to get in there. And it feels like for a time being that there was still 5 or 6 supporters, non-starters at all, who are hardline never Kevin, in other words, that wouldn't support Kevin McCarthy. So Kevin McCarthy was really left with 2 options. One, negotiate concessions to the more hardline conservative wings of his party, or 2, stand down. Now, his approach was 1, negotiate concessions, because he wasn't going to give up his bid to become speaker at any cost. He had support from like 85% of the caucus, which was enough. I mean, it's pretty much unanimous. There was just 20 odd members that was standing by against him, really, to be fair, that didn't want to support him. The end result, really, unfortunately, was that the 20 of those that didn't support initially lost. When we got to Friday, or I think it was Thursday, yes, it was actually Friday, we saw the 14th, 12th round of voting. And people who didn't support Kevin McCarthy started then supporting Kevin McCarthy because after long, intense negotiations, they started non-supporting, but they still didn't have the numbers. And then we got to the incredible 14th and 15th round of voting in the early hours of the morning, US time. Friday, it was going to Friday evening, Saturday morning territory for the House of Representatives and the speakership election. And wow, I have to say there was quite the scenes. McCarthy was still missing by 5 or 6 votes. He then went to Matt Gaetz, who really wasn't going to give up easily. Some as well. And then other members started getting involved. We might have seen Mike Rogers of Alabama had to be physically restrained because he was so peeved off with Matt Gaetz on the floor. It was extraordinary live scenes that they were witnessing. House floor. Kevin McCarthy was losing control of his party by the minute. Let's just be honest about that one. And then an extraordinary thing happened. They tried to do another motion to adjourn for the night as well until Monday to get noon to get this all resolved at the weekend because Kevin McCarthy thought he had the numbers but didn't. And then an extraordinary thing happened as well. That's the video of what's happened. Let's just take a look at this. So this is Mike Rogers. You can see there is Mike Rogers. He comes into view. Obviously not impressed with McCarthy. McGates.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. I've never seen that before in a speakership contest. Wow.
That is never, and these are picked up, by the way, by C-SPAN, who control the cameras in Congress, just for this day only, or just for this round of voting only, because they don't, outside of the speakership election and probably the State of the Union, they don't control the cameras. They don't have their own cameras. So this is the only time we would be able to see something like that. Without their cameras, we wouldn't have seen this. But it was quite extraordinary. You could see him hit McCarthy pleading with Matt Gaetz to at least vote present, which reduces the threshold need to become a speaker. Because to become a speaker, you need a 15% majority. But yeah, honestly, stunning scenes. Gaetz and others eventually caved and voted present, which meant Kevin McCarthy had the numbers to become the House of Representatives Speaker for the Republican Party. It took 15 rounds of voting. It was the first time since 1926 that a round of voting has gone to a speakership election has gone to more than one round of voting. It was the first time since the 1800s there were more than 9 rounds of voting. In fact, there was 15 in total rounds of voting for the speakership. It was an embarrassing start for Kevin McCarthy because Hakeem Jeffries of the Democrats was beating him, although did not reach the threshold, given the fact that the 20 of the Republican hardliners were supporting someone else. But yeah, after a lot of time, Kevin McCarthy has now become the speaker. He had to make a few concessions. One is on the motion to vacate the chair. Now, previously in previous congresses, it's been quite high. You need a certain amount of people in your own party to support that. Now, only one member of the House needs to bring up a motion to vacate to get it voted on to try and force the speaker out. That doesn't mean if it's one member bringing up a motion to vacate, that's going to get through. But yeah, it's a very big concession there from Kevin McCarthy. He also promised more Freedom Caucus members on the House Rules Committee, which basically are the ones that controls what bills are brought up to the House and whatnot. He also conceded on defense spending, which is going to be, I think, a massive battle between traditional mainstream Republicans, Democrats, Senate Democrats as well, and the rest of the more conservative wing of the party. That's going to be a big fight ahead. He's also going to worked out methods how to deal with the debt ceiling as well, which is going to clash with Senate Democrats definitely on that one. And yeah, a lot of concession made by Kevin McCarthy. The question is now, if it takes 15 rounds to govern on just basically electing a speaker, how on earth he's going to govern and maintain his role as a speaker in the 118th Congress. Who knows? This is going to be a big of a battle, and it's much more than progressive versus traditional Democrats, by the way. This is hardline conservatives versus traditional conservative moderate Republicans that will be going against each other in 118th Congress, trying to work together. But this appears to be at the beginning of a battle, major battle ahead for Kevin McCarthy to keep his conference in place. We knew Nancy Pelosi could do it. Kevin McCarthy has shown no signs of it so far in his Republican Party.
It's going to be interesting to see how he gets on as speakers at lots of big issues tough tackling America at the moment. Obviously, with the Biden administration, the Democrats in charge, it's going to be interesting to see whether there's going to be a conflict of interest between certain issues like inflation, with gun laws, with abortion as well. Several issues that the US are facing at the moment. There's also been talks about the defense spending being reduced to help aid with the war in Ukraine at the moment. Rand Paul was suggesting about that the other day. So it'll be very interesting to see how that affects the United States at the moment. But please let me know, guys, what you make to Kevin McCarthy being Speaker. Do you think the US House of Representatives needs reform, or do you think that there should have been another election for another Speaker? Let me know what you think. Now, moving on now to the second news story of the night. Now, this one is quite an interesting one because it comes from Brazil. We're going to be talking tonight about something that I call reminiscent of the 2021 Capitol riots. Now, Jair Bolsonaro supporters have stormed Brasilia today after apparently their president lost the election. Now, I have to say, I think this is a horrible event. Of course, the new president in Brazil is called Lula. If you want to know his name, he's a left-wing candidate who won the presidency. Bolsonaro supporters stormed Brasilia today. Police have been firing tear gas at them. Zach, what have you made to this? This event in Brazil is pretty shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. This is happening in real time at the moment. There's been police that are trying to get involved. Lulu has called this bunch of supporters that have raided the Brazilian Parliament, Congress, and Supreme Court a bunch of fascists, which he's not wrong in his description there. But yeah, this gives back quite a lot of ugly reminiscence of January 6th. We're talking about Jair Bolsonaro, who is basically a far-right fascist who basically sowed doubts on the election results in Brazil, even after, and he lost the election against Lula. He went silent. He basically didn't concede defeat for a while. He then went to the Supreme Court alleging some voter fraud, which wasn't there, which had no merit, no evidence of that, not enough evidence at all. And although Lulu is in power now and basically sworn in as the president, Jair Bolsonaro supporters are still very salty and upset. And with inspiration from what Donald Trump supporters did in the United States in January 6th.
This is live right now, guys. This was what happened earlier on. Look at the footage of them storming the Brazilian Parliament right here today.
Yeah, and his supporters have obviously took inspiration for what Donald Trump did in January 6, 2021, and decided the best way to vent their frustrations is damaging their national parliament, storming the building, trespassing it, and basically rioting and invading it.
Go for this.
I mean, yeah, it's a disgusting act of terrorism. Basically, it's insurrection. Let's just say that it's insurrection. It's terrorist, domestic terrorism, fascism. Look at that tear gas, smoke, having to deploy because these idiots have trespassed and basically committed sedition. It's just appalling, utterly appalling. But this is what the reminiscent or what the far right idiots like Trump and Bolsonaro do. they stoke up doubt, they whip up hatred, and they cause the supporters listen to every word they say and direct actions based on this. Now, Bolsonaro is currently in Florida at the moment. I don't know what he's doing there. Maybe he's fled there or something like that. I don't know what he did, but he fled there quite a while ago. But this is, I don't know when you mislead.
Sorry, guys, we do have that video playing, as you can see in the background of these protesters storming the building. I have to say, literally, I mean, this is horrendous.
But yeah, this is what happens when you mislead and, mislead and radicalize and literally suck into a bubble your supporters into this misinformation, world of rubbish. It just is. It's just nonsense, conspiracies, and it's shocking. It is disgraceful. Donald Trump I can even blame Donald Trump for this because he's basically inspired his own supporters last year, and Jair Bolsonaro supporters, done it on this one. It's really bad. It's awful, and it's just not good enough. It's bad. It's idiotic, and it's just sad for Brazilian democracy when you have civil unrest and an ungrateful bunch of people that are doing this. It's just sore losers, quite frankly.
Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting how I saw the videos of how they stormed the building. I mean, I don't know what to say on this one. I mean, what they've done is completely wrong. I mean, the police have clearly had to intervene here. This is a big. I don't even know. It's not even been on the news. I mean, it was just reported earlier on tonight. Honestly, I only saw this earlier on, and I thought we've got to talk about this. This is a massive news story. This will probably be on the news in the next few days, I reckon, because this is a huge issue. There's going to be hearings into this. I mean, the supporters, some of these supporters have probably been taken to custody for criminal damage or something. But there is a lot of criminal damage in there. There's smashed windows, broken. There was an office there as well that got some chairs thrown over and that. Oh, honestly, it was horrendous. And I mean, Zach, it's clear now that civil unrest in Brazil is getting bigger since Bolsonaro's departure. I feel like now the Brazilian democracy have to stand up to this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had comments in from the likes of Jake Sullivan and Anthony Blinken from the US. Jake Sullivan is obviously the national security advisor, so for the Biden administration, who've obviously keeping close eye on this, and it's only been like a year and 2 days, 2 years and 2 days since the anniversary of this of the January 6th attack that caused the Capitol riots. And this is just so similar to what's happening, in Brazil and everything like that as well. So there's obviously a lot of wide faces for people watching in democracy and around the world because they think democracy is a little bit fraught and a little bit at risk and unstable with people like Brazilian supporters of Bolsonaro just using violence and terrorism to destroy institutions. And a lot of people will be watching this around the world thinking that's January the 6th all over again. It is. And the difference between this one, I suppose, and what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in America, is that Lula is already sworn in, so he's already the president. So I don't know what the purpose was on this, on what the Bolsonaro supporters are doing here, because it's just, it's just the raid that his supporters just raided, institutions like the Supreme Court as well, which, by the way, that wasn't targeted after on January 6th. That was the Congress when there was a clear motive to certify the results of the election. And you had a bunch of supporters, trying to stop that happen. There's nothing happening in Brazil that election wise that they need to look at. So yeah, this is a failed, miserable coup by a bunch of supporters and arsonists that have tried to declare to dictate and do fascism, really. So yeah, the whole world is going to be watching this, especially those in the States as well, who are pretty familiar with what happened, and no insurrections.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be on the news for a few days, no question. I mean, this is a big attack. There's going to be lots of investigations. I mean, it clearly represents a similar story to the Capitol riots, and I have no question all of those who were involved in that are now going to be facing legal action, I'm sure. Please comment down below, guys, what you've made to the Bolsonaro supporters raiding on the Brazilian parliament and the Brazilian um, the Brazilian Parliament building in general, guys. I'd love to hear what you think, because clearly this is an issue that isn't going away anytime soon. Moving on now to the war in Ukraine now. Now, there has meant to be a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin announced that the other day in Russia. However, though, did we all think he was bluffing it? Yes, he was.
She was.
Because he has launched massive attacks across Ukraine. This is clearly false. It's clearly fake news when I say that, because the war in Ukraine, there's still been fighting taking place in Bakhmut. It ends with no let up in fighting. Huge air raids have been taking place. This is a photograph on a Russian missile attack in eastern Ukraine. Self-declared 36-hour ceasefire for Orthodox Christmas in Russia. I mean, that isn't a ceasefire. That's war continuing on a huge scale. It seems like Russia are continuing with their attacks. Ukrainian intelligence also damaged 2 power plants in Donetsk, according to Reuters officials, as well. And also, visitors have entered the Yurt of Instability, which is opened in Bucha amid the invasion of Ukraine by Russia at the moment. I have to say, Zach, this week, it's clear to me that Russia is certainly increasing its attacks on Ukrainian cities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this so-called ceasefire wasn't even a ceasefire. It was more of a false flag ceasefire in many ways as well. Russia, Vladimir Putin was declaring the Orthodox Christmas as an excuse. Well, the Orthodox they didn't seem to stop at Christmas when they really wanted to, did they? The traditional Christmas in December, they sort of did what they did then. This again, it was another ceasefire. That there was not a ceasefire. It was another set of hypocritical terrorist actions by Vladimir Putin and his army. Once again, invading Ukraine and targeting civilians and infrastructures and other areas as well. I suppose what Putin was trying to get out of this was, let's declare ceasefire, and then we'll regroup, we gather our thoughts, do nothing, and then we'll just go on a full range attack. Well, they've already done a full range attack as well on Ukraine. Continues so. It's obviously it's not necessary. It's just unacceptable what's happened there as well. They've struck more things today. Just today they've struck buildings and civic east fires as well. What's also happened as well, they've also falsely claimed that 600 soldiers of Ukrainian soldiers were killed in eastern town Makarmastov in Bakhmut. But it's very suspicious, that claim. But the town mayor said there's been no deaths from the weekend strikes. The fact that Russia's going with 600 seems to be part of misinformation to me. They can't kill. There's no way 600 people were going to be in that. There's no way where they strike there's going to be 600 people as well. In the soldiers as well. It just seems dubious as well. Someone's been fiddling with the numbers and all that sort of thing as well. But yeah, and as well, we also got news today that Russia and Belarus are doing more joint training exercises in Belarus as well. I suspect this is a way to try and get Belarus back into the war. As well, the fact that Russia have used Belarus as a launching pad for their weapons and drone attacks and other ways to sort of get in and get involved. It's just like I said, it's another way for Putin to say, well, it wasn't for us, it was them, as well. So yeah, they're still destroying things despite this so-called ceasefire, which is not a ceasefire in many ways as well. There's also been attacks in in 7 regions of Ukraine's east and south. As well, 3 people been killed today. On Friday, Kherson was shelled 39 times. Residential buildings, a fire station, as well. There's been killings in Bakhmut, as well. There's been obviously Kharkiv as well, 4 Ukrainian positions as well, Lukansk. Yeah, so it's just it's the so-called ceasefire was not a ceasefire. One big bit of news is today there's been another prisoner exchange. 50 Ukrainian soldiers released from Russian detention, part of a prisoner swap, which I suppose is good news. Any prisoner swap is pretty much welcome, as well. But it's just does not get away from the fact that Russia continues to cause hell for Ukraine, but Ukraine is still fighting up very well.
It's very interesting, I have to say. Russia, I mean, if Russia and obviously Belarus's president Alexander Lukashenko wants to join this war, given that they've expanded training exercises along the border in Belarus, then it will come at a huge cost of more bloodshed in Ukraine, certainly. And it could cause an expansion to the war as well. I don't want to see other European countries being attacked, honestly. I don't want to see bloodshed across Europe again. It is just horrendous. We've got it anyway. And World War III, oh God, that will be horrendous. Please comment down below, guys, what you make of the current war in Ukraine and what should be addressed in the times. Now, moving on now to another part of In the Spotlight now, where I'm going to be talking about the continuation of World War II, particularly today, talking about the flying bomb part of World War II. Now, it's called the flying bomb, V1, V2, whatever you want to call it. There is obviously a lot of people out there who would have known exactly what this weapon of destruction was. It was developed by Germany, and it was used to attack London during the Second World War. London and many other countries. Basically, it was Hitler's weapon of vengeance. It was used to try and basically stop the Allies attacking German cities and obviously German naval bases across Europe as well. It was basically the vengeance weapon. It was inflicting terror. It didn't need to use pilots as well. This weapon could be it's basically what you see in Ukraine with the Russian missiles. It was basically one of them. This was basically used to destroy Britain and make basically Germany win the war. But they failed to do that. British air defences actually shot most of these down, with especially the V1s. The V2s, though, were a bit different. We'll come on to the V2s in a minute because they were slightly different. But, Zach, these flying bomb weapons or missile weapons, whatever you want to call them, they were certainly, during the Second World War, a big factor between both the Allies and the Axis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're one of the most powerful powerful weapon that you can get. The Germans that tried to use them as well. They were wing bombs. They were missiles in many ways, as well. Cruise missiles, should I say? They weighed the warhead weighed 850 kilograms. It cost. It also had a range of 160 miles in them, so they could go quite far actually in many ways. And there's obviously the picture of obviously how it was and how there's a reception of what they did to it as well. So it was quite a powerful weapon that they used as well. This was made in Nazi Germany, and it was obviously a key factor between 1940, 44 and 45. So it was used in London as well, to try and bomb try and bomb London, and then it was then that was after 1 week after the successful Allied landing in France, and 100 of those were launched on that in southeast England on that day as well. In 9,251 of them, 521 of them, were used until October 1944. Really. and yeah, so it was used quite a lot as well. And it only stopped on the 29th of March 1945 when before the war ended as well. So it was a powerful weapon at a speed of 400 miles an hour, um, flying between 600 and 900 meters to 2,000 3,000 feet as well. So it was a really powerful cruise missile that was used to destroy targets, especially in England as well.
Mm.
And it it was powerful for Germany in many ways because it would destroy buildings as well. It obviously it's been used on planes, but it was also used as anti-aircraft guns as well. So it was obviously called the V1, but it was known as the flying bomb in many instances because of its
We've got a
powerful.
picture here we're going to show you guys of what this actually looked like. I mean, you might think this looks like a kind of it looks like a regular kind of like paper aeroplane or something in the sky, but it really isn't. This is basically an explosive. It's a bit like a Russian missile, kind of a cruise missile today, except this weapon was actually made with explosive chemicals in it. And when the engine cut out, it basically nosedived onto the ground and could destroy pretty much anything in its path.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, you see all the features of it. Like there is all the technology that was used to use this missile. I mean, there's no passenger in anything; it's all automated. Think about that in 2023 these days. That would be quite an invention if it was made today. But that was seriously technological with all the systems, the explosives that they had in it,
Mm.
and the way it was engine and powered that should make it an effective missile on a building that would just destroy power destroy lots of things in its path. So it was really effective in many ways, just because of the way it was built, the way it was manufactured, the way it was engineered. It really became a problematic weapon that the Nazi Germany used to damage buildings in London across the world, and eventually it got to. I think it was even used in Japan in the last stages as well.
Mm.
When the wars, I think, and started to finish as well. So the Britain had to obviously defend it. They had to use 40 million bottles of anti-aircraft gun to keep watching for flying bombs as well.
Yeah.
Um, Also, for the British defence, you could wonder they used like anti-aircraft guns in the south of England in the use of RAF fighters to shoot down them as well. So they could be destroyable, but they were difficult in many ways because of the speed, the range, and the distance, and how effective it was at hitting its targets.
Yeah. And also as well, don't forget the V2s, because these I think were the most deadliest that Hitler and his German propaganda machines tried to use, because the V2 rockets launching sites were set up around The Hague in the Netherlands on the 6th of September 1944. They launched from here against London on the 8th of September 1944. It took an estimated 5 minutes to fly just 200 miles. V2 explosions came without warning. The government initially attempted to conceal those by blaming them on defective gas mains. However, the public were not fooled soon, and sardonically referred to as the V2's super flying gas pipes. I mean, look at this. I mean, this is a V2 launching here. I mean, this weapon could travel at 3,000 miles an hour, much faster than the V1s, and they couldn't be shot down. That was the problem. They couldn't be shot down. I mean, Zach, the clear difference between the V1s and the V2s for me was the fact that these weapons, particularly the V2, many air defense systems couldn't shoot them down.
Yeah, exactly. The defense systems were obviously not designed for them, or what they had at the time were not designed to shoot down a weapon. They didn't have all these anti-aircraft, powerful anti-aircraft weapon defense systems to be able to shoot these down. So if anyone used the V2, most of the time it would be effective against its target, and there'd be nothing to stop it. And it's what caused the destruction of many buildings. Look at that. That was 1945 in London. That killed 134 people. That did that bombing using the V2 because they couldn't be shot down. There's nothing you could do about it. If there's a bomb, once a V2 is used, it is used, and wow. the consequences are devastating with that.
I have to say, Zach, as well, I'm going to play a few short video now of exactly how this missile kind of worked, because for the time of its launch, it was actually quite advanced. So here's a video of exactly how the V1 flying bomb was created in Germany and how it was used to destroy cities like London. Have a listen to this.
In 1942, the Luftwaffe, aware of the development of a long-range rocket by the German army, began intensive development of a rival weapon, a ramjet flying bomb. The flying bomb entered service ahead of the Army's rocket and became known as the V1. Launched from ramps situated in the Pas de Calais, flying bombs were used to attack London in an offensive that commenced on June the 13th, 1944. Basically simple in design, the flying bomb was an economical and effective weapon of war. Traveling at speeds of up to 440 miles per hour, it severely tested the air defenses of England. In early September 1944, the flying bomb launch sites were overrun by advancing Allied armies. In a 3-month offensive, the bombs killed over 5,000 Londoners, maiming and wounding many thousands more.
Yep, that was the video there of the flying bomb, or the flying missiles, I call it. Also, as well, they were actually not just used from launch sites, they were also used from Heinkel bombers. German bombers actually launched these weapons as well to target cities like London during the Second World War. So please comment down below, guys, what you made to that little history lesson. We'll be doing another one again very, very soon on my show. But moving on now to the sports news now. We're going to talk about the football results, which were coming in from the FA Cup as well. Some big shocks, actually, in the football recently, with many teams certainly causing surprises, Zach, in the FA Cup this weekend.
Yeah, it's FA Cup weekend, third round weekend. It's been traditionally one of the most, probably the best days on the calendar of the footballing season. As well, we get all the big, the big teams drop into the competition. Those of the non-league have been working up from the first round onwards have now reached their big teams, and it all started off for Friday. It was the big Premier League tie between Manchester United and Everton. It was Manchester United 3, Everton 1. And there was lots of games since then. Preston Huddersfield 3-1. Reading defeated Watford 2-0. Reading are going to take on Manchester United in the next round, on the fourth round as well. Tottenham beating Portsmouth 1-0. They're going to be treated to a tie against Preston. Leicester City also beating Gillingham 1-0. Treated to a tie against Walsall away again in the next round as well. That'll be nice little game still. Forest Green Birmingham got postponed, by the way, due to a waterlogged pitch. It was raining quite a lot then. An all Premier League tie between Crystal Palace and Southampton ended up with Southampton winning 2-1, actually. Some would say be a bit surprising. Fulham beating Hull City 2-0. Brighton with an absolute stunner result, beating Middlesbrough 5-1. An absolute demolition there. Fleetwood, one of the surprises around, beating QPR 2-1. Ipswich Town taking on Rotherham. And again, Rotherham's championship side as well, beaten 4-1 by Ipswich Town. Bournemouth, Premier League side, Bournemouth got knocked out by Burnley. That was 4-2 as well. Very surprising result, you have to say. There, Blackpool, wow, I have to do this is one of them. 4-1 against Premier League side Nottingham Forest. That's a big result there. Chesterfield West Brom is going to replay. Not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. Sheffield United being 2-0 Millwall. That's a pretty easy result there for Sheffield United. Boreham Wycombe Stanley is also going to replay on the I think it's going to be the 7th. Yes, it's going to be on the 17th. They're all going to go to replay, subject to TV, any television moves as well. Sunderland beating Shrewsbury 2-1. West Ham are back to winning, beating Brentford 1-0 in the London derby there. Wrexham 4-3, dramatic win there for Wrexham, 4-3 against Coventry as well. Coventry a red card as well. Luton and Wigan are going to replay as well. Grimsby Town, this is a nice one, beating Burton 1-0. Another surprise was Newcastle, high-flying Newcastle, being beaten by Sheffield Wednesday 2-1 as well. Liverpool Wolves are going to replay, by the way. 2-2 draw there. Some say a bit surprising. Derby County, today's results, Derby County winning against Barnsley by 3-0. Bristol City and Swansea are going to replay. Cardiff City and Leeds United are also going to replay as well. Cardiff City was 2-0 up for most of the match and then got red carded, and then Leeds came from 2 goals behind to draw. Stockport lost in 2-1 to Walsall. Stoke winning a good 3-0 against Hartlepool. Blackburn 1-0 against Norwich. A very surprising result as well. Aston Villa losing 2-1 against a League One Stevenage. Very shocking result there for Stevenage. It's a massive upset for them. Manchester City, big game today was against Chelsea. A 4-0 victory for Manchester City. Pretty much devastating result there as well. Tomorrow we've got one final third round North tie. Oxford United against Arsenal at 8 p.m. tomorrow. And then obviously the replays, as I said, will be West Brom, Chesterfield, Swansea, Bristol, Leeds, Cardiff, Acton, Bourne, and Wolves Liverpool on the 17th of January as well. And as I said as well, for the fourth round, the draw took place today. There's ties from the 28th of January as well. Obviously, subject to TV changes that include Man United and Reading, Derby, West Ham. That'd be a good one. Southampton, Blackpool, Walsall, Leicester. Manchester City could take on Arsenal the next round if Arsenal win their tie as well. And we've still got 3 other ties to be determined there as well. Grimsby got a team to be determined. I've got another 2 to be determined, and Brighton as well have also yet to find out their opponents for the next round of the FA Cup. So yeah, a lot of action going on there. Some surprising things: Villa out, Forest out, are out from the Premier League as well. Aston Villa are out. Chelsea are now out as well. Last season they got to the final last season, didn't even get past the third round this season. Arsenal, will they survive against Oxford United? Yeah, I don't know. I think they probably will, but who knows? And Cardiff could still take out Leeds. Wolves could still take out Liverpool. Who knows? But yes, a few replays on the way as well on the 17th or 18th of January.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, all these football results, because I mean, I'm sure one of my uncles probably watching my show tonight. There has been a lot of speculation, Zach, about managers in the Premier League could be under a lot of pressure. We know that a few managers are under pressure, like David Moyes of West Ham. We also know that I think Nathan Jones at Southampton, his team's not doing that well at the moment. But I think, and also Frank Lampard at Everton being another one that's also under the radar. But Zach, Graham Potter at Chelsea, these managers are in trouble.
Yeah, 10th position for Chelsea at the moment after sacking Thomas Tuchel earlier in the season for that 2-1 loss in the Champions League in the first round of fixtures there. I mean, Chelsea are marred with injuries, which doesn't help as well. They've got an injury list that's pretty big at the moment, but they've struggled to really find a consistent rhythm under their so far this season. They've struggled. They've been inconsistent. They've been lacking quality in midfield and at defence, and they're really struggling. There's players that are really performing poorly at the moment as well that should be performing really well. So Chelsea are struggling, and they could be easily beaten at the moment. So they really need to pick up the pace as we go into the next round of fixtures coming up, because they are really struggling at the moment.
Yeah, lots of football managers certainly under the radar. We'll keep you an eye on that as you go on. And we're going to just quickly talk about one more piece of news whilst we are here. This is a quick update from the motorsport world whilst we're here now. Because obviously next week we've got Formula E starting in Mexico City. Obviously though, guys, this week we did lose Ken Block, sadly. They've just lost Ken Block this week as well, which was a huge loss as well. Now, we do have the news, guys. The Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona comes up very soon. It will feature a 60-car grid for the race. We've got a huge number of drivers. We're not going to go over all of them. I'll quickly just gloss over who's going to go in. We've got Cadillac Racing, I think, are the reigning winners. I'm not entirely sure, but we've got Sebastian Bordeaux, Ranger Van der Zane, Scott Dixon, IndyCar driver in there as well. Cadillac Racing, we've got Alex Lynn, Richard Westbrook, Earl Bamber, Penske Motorsport, the number 6, Porsche 963, Nick Tandy, Matteo Jamet, and Dane Cameron, American driver. Porsche Penske also have Felipe Nasr, Matt Campbell, and Michael Christensen. Wayne Taylor Racing also have Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, Louis Delatraz, Brendan Hartley as well. There's also other entries with the BMW M Hybrid V8 as well in GTP. LMP2 will see many other entries, including an interesting one, which will see the Crowd Striking Racing run by APR Orica 7 Gibson, driven by George Curtis, Matt McCurry, Ben Hanley, Esteban Gutierrez. LMP3 also sees other car entries as well. And the GT Daytona Class Pro will see Corvette C8, driven by Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, Tommy Miller there. Some of the favourites. Zach, what have you made to this grid so far for the 24 Hours of Daytona?
Yeah, it's a competitive field. No doubt about that, Charlie. It's a big field of cars that are taking part in this field of massive 60 cars, as you said, that are taking part in the Daytona sort of Rolex 24. There's a lot of interesting things as well. There's new cars that making their debut as well. As well, we've got the Acura RX-006, the BMW Hybrid V8, the Cadillac VL-MDH, the Porsche 963. All the cars in the IMSA Royal Tech Championship, Sports Car Championship, this season are taking part. So it's all new cars, and yeah, it's very exciting, isn't it? There's just new cars, new teams, as well, that are just taking part in the field. So it's obviously a nicely shook up field, as well, in what's happening. But yeah, it's taking place at the end of July. We've got the 24 the Raw before the 24 Hours on the 20th, as well. But yeah, there's a lot of cars entering. You mean you got experienced names in there like Felipe Nasr, got Nick Tandy, Alex Lynn, Sebastian Bourdais, as well, Tom Blomqvist, Jack Aiken, Helio Castroneves, Simon Paginard, Esteban Gutierrez, Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, Olivia Jarvis as well. Lots of familiar names in that field, I have to say, that you'll recognise as well, that taking part in this one event, as well. And Roman Grosjean, I should say, as well.
Roman Grosjean.
Iron Lynx, Lamborghini in this one as well. He's taking part in the event as well. But yeah, a lot of familiar names as well. Kevin Magnussen, you may remember him, F1 driver last, as well.
Fast, yep.
Motorsports, taking part in the race as well, the 24 as well. You may have seen as well. He's obviously great for the I think it's MDK Motorsport, the Porsche 911, as well. Harry Tickenall, AO Racing, familiar name as well, and Ryan Briscoe, the Australian as well. They're racing the Acura X93 GT with race with RTR. So a lot of familiar names in that field.
We could go on, but there's so many names.
So much. It's a multi-category, so there's obviously going to be so much of them as well.
So we can find out exactly when the date is for this, for when the Rolex 24 is set to take place. I believe, according to confirmation, according to the dates, which we just...
Let me double check. I think it's the 28th to 29th. Let me double check as well.
Let me check. Rolex 24 is the 28th from the 29th of January 2023. So at the end of January, we'll go racing in Daytona. And then Daytona is back next month for the Daytona 500 and the start of the NASCAR 2023 season, which will be great news indeed. Moving on now to Charlie's good news, which this week is the return of The Apprentice, which we'll be covering now until the series finishes. We were back. I watched the show today, so I can tell you exactly what happened. Me and Zach are going to review it. 18 new candidates fighting it out to become Lord Sugar's new business partner. Certainly some interesting CVs, I have to say. But it all started off with a trip to Antigua to run tour guides across Antigua. And the boys team this year finally got the win. Last year they lost the cruise ship task, but this year the boys team won. They sold more tickets, sold 16 tickets. The girls only sold 12. And the boys team, led by Joseph Phillips, ended up taking home the honours. I think they made a profit of £969. And the girls only made about 400 and something. And it was a very small number indeed. And they spent a lot more as well and won the task. But in the end, though, the candidate that got fired from the losing team, well, she wanted to go to the airport, but not the beach. In the end, they went to the beach. We can confirm to you that the first fired candidate of the series is Emma Brown. Zach, what did you make to the first episode of The Apprentice UK?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and is the cruise ship, Antarctica, the tour guide challenge for this one. They always do like to send it abroad for the first bit of task Lord Sugar does. But yeah, I have to say, I think he made the right decision personally. I mean, I must admit some of the tasks that the tour, the men's wasn't exactly exciting, but I have to say, well, the girls were a bit more cringy. I mean, the dancing on the boat, I just find completely. Why you're supposed to take in the views and you're not supposed to dance and then get distracted. They made a fundamental mistake there, and then you had Emma with very distracting, disruptive, not so good decision making topics that ended up being fired basically. I agree it was the right decision. I think the men, whilst wasn't brilliant, I have to say they weren't brilliant, but it feels like they had a bit more of a cleaner, better, more understanding process as well of what they were doing. I mean, they took bigger risks at the end of the day with their spending, with their commissions, of how much they agreed to pay the money on obviously getting the sales. They also managed to get all 16 of their guests on board, guests on this trip. The girls only got 12 of the 16. That was, they're going to lose. You had the feeling that once you only got 12 of the 16 with their poor decision making that goes to the beach, people to get to sell this to, rather than something a little bit more popular. Obviously, beaches are supposed to be popular, but obviously it wasn't at that time. But it just wasn't wise for what the girls did. The whole strategy was just make up on the way they go and then see what how they get out of it. They just left things too late. Their tour was a bit just wasn't as toury. It wasn't to see the sightseeing. It was just a lot less structured. The men's were much more consistent. It wasn't exciting, the men's one. They're just, I'll be honest, they were obviously made a few mistakes that people remember things, but it feels like they had people to be able to run it smoothly and efficiently and make the customers feel like they enjoyed it. So, yeah, I mean, Emma, for example, it was just pretty much her trying to be fired as well. And, yeah, I pretty much agreed with the decision Lord Sugar decided to make there on that one. I mean, it was obviously, it wasn't very good as well. Yeah, it was just really wasn't good. Obviously, the next one we're going to see on television, Charlie, is obviously episode 2 next week as well. The next week's task, they're going to go to Hoitang and the Shard. They'll be manufacturing Salvoy Bale buns to punt to the public and a spoke sweet bun to sell to corporate clients, with a team who secures the biggest profit winning. So that it's going to be buns and a bit of food to win over customers and to profit for businesses as well. So yeah, as we've seen from the trailer, it looks like things are one team of it is going to be a little bit of a messy experience from the trailer as well for next week. Looking at it, that it looks like none of the teams don't exactly get it to effective as well. But who knows? Who will be the one that next one will be fired? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, the boys' final profit was $989, twice as more the girls at $487, and the final three that were brought in by the project manager, which was Victoria. It was also Emma Brown, who was accused of arguing over location, and court advocate Marnie Swindle's tasked with selling tickets. She only sold 12 tickets. Oh dear. As well, they also sold pottery. The boys done pottery as well. The girls were meant to make like clarins as well or something like that. the Kamatarian cruise, which didn't work. I have to say though, Zach, Gregory Epps saving the men's team because their project manager, Joseph Phillips, had a bit of a mistake remembering part of his history tour. Gregory Epps coming in, I believe he done some part of like cannon firing as when he was a kid. So he certainly saved the boys, didn't he? He'll be a contender this year if he continues.
He was key, he was key to saving the task for the men, really, in terms of the cannon firing thing. The fact that he will study history and remembered history as well was really key to saving the task. Because if no one else knew what it was, then there could have been refunds on the way as well. If that could have ended up made or break refunds potentially as well. But that was at the end of the day the saviour, because they had teams members that were able to step in and control the situation. That was the key to the men winning and saving the task for them, I think.
Yeah, I heard as well he's a Liberal Democrat councillor as well, apparently.
Let's see how he actually performs them with the Lib Dems in charge, actually, of a team. Let's see how they actually do in government on this situation. They obviously got to perform the task. Because if they can do that, he may be better in government if he ever gets the chance to do that opportunity one day. I'm not sure Lib Dems will ever do that, but yeah, have a taste of experience of it.
Next week, we move on to a new task, which will be great for The Apprentice. But yeah, anyway, let's carry on now. We're going to talk all about the national papers now. I don't know if any of them have been released. We're going to go through the papers right now, even if tomorrow's papers haven't been released. Let's have a look.
We've got
exactly what's happened. Oh yes, we have a few ninths that have come in. The Daily. Oh, I love the Daily Star's headline. Wow. Very funny. The Daily Star has gone for caveman bald culture, yabba dabba hairdo. This headline, honestly, I don't know what it's like a comic strip, isn't it? Honestly, apparently, claiming that eggheads say they can cure slapheads after finding a caveman genie which helps us grow hair that is prehistoric. Okay. I don't know what to say about that. I'll be very interested. In the Metro, King puts on a brave face, not a spare in the world. Charles greets crowd as Harry hits out on TV. Oh, God, Prince Harry, come on. What was his interview about the other day? Financial Times goes with US bolsters military ties with Japan to counter Pacific threat from China. This comes as China opened their borders up following the closure of the pandemic. And unions warn Sunak of fresh strikes without a boost to pay for the NHS offer. Zach, what do you make so far to the current papers being released?
Yeah, we only got 3 of them for tomorrow so far, but let's just go through some of them as well. The Daily Star with their comical front page goes to a yabba dabba hairdo. This is obviously reference to bald people, really, as well. They can cure slapheads after finding a caveman genre, which helps us grow hair. That's prehistoric. So presumably they're comparing us to what the age days of monkeys and gorillas. So they're obviously going for something that's gone down in history, and they've obviously gone to a cave somewhere around the world and found this egghead curing yabba dabba hair. I don't know what they don't even call that hair, yabba dabba hair grew. A caveman jewel which helps us grow hair. So this is obviously good for bald people in many ways, because bald people can't really grow hair. I mean, they can, but they just have to shave it all off first and then grow it back. But yeah, my history lessons on hair growing cures and everything like that, Charlie, are not exactly brilliant. I thankfully do not. We thankfully do not have to take this because I have plenty of hair. As well, I can't imagine me being an egghead. I can't imagine you, Charlie, being an egghead. In many instances.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was. And I know sometimes you cut your hair short sometimes when you do have your hair. I've seen it before, but you wouldn't cut it that short. No way. I wouldn't even want to cut it all the way around here as well. It'd be a bit weird. You might be able to see all my spots in my head. So I might have a few spots in my head as well, which would really be really annoying because it looks like I'm going to become a redhead then. Not saying I do have spots on my head or anything like that, but yeah, it just wouldn't be pretty to be. The Metro, obviously referencing tonight's Prince Harry interview, as well, which by the way is airing at the moment as I speak. As well, I've got that on record. I'm watching it and talking to you at the same time. It's clever how I can do these sort of things. Not a Spare in the World. That's a reference to Prince Harry's new book, which I believe is going on sale this Tuesday in the UK. This is a new memoir by Prince Harry. Charlie Boy's been out in public today as well. He greeted the crowd in Sanjian. Actually, this was yesterday. He greeted the crowd in Sanjian as well. He had smiled, put a smile on his face after further damnation by the Prince Harry, which left his older brother William burning with anger. Harry has slagged off his brother throughout this episode. I should say in this interview, he complained of physical assault. He wants to talk to his brother, but also complained of physical assault. He also couldn't cry when, obviously, he was behind the mother's coffin and all that sort of thing as well. He also boasts the fact that he killed 25 Taliban men.
What the hell is this about? Come on.
When he was fighting Afghanistan as well. He said he only cried once when his mum died, and we had to smile when the nation mourned as well. He also said, I couldn't cry in public when my mother died. There's a lot of revelations in the interview with Tom Brady. He's also doing an interview with Anderson Cooper in the States tonight, which is airing on 60 Minutes in CBS as well. So there'll be some revelations about that as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of revelations this week. I kind of get to the point where Harry could wish it. I know I do like Harry, but I wish he could just shut up sometimes and just get him on in his life. The point is, he's boasts about all these things that happen and everything like that. It gets a bit boring when he listens about it. He's obviously intense in the space. Just want to keep going on and on. I just, kind of wish he'd sort of leave off a little bit. It was a bit of a shame, really, because I do like the fella. And I sympathise with him in some ways, obviously growing up and everything like that. But it's difficult and everything like that at the moment. There's a lot of accusations have been thrown around. It's just not. It's just. I wish you'd lay off a little bit. But there's a lot of explosive things that he said as well. The Financial Times goes for more international perspective. They talk about the US bolstering military ties with Japan. They're scaling up operations. A summit between them two is happening this week, and as well, because this is basically to counter China in many ways as well. The fact that China could invade Taiwan at any point in the year, and the fact that how bad Taiwan invasion could be, because a lot of microchips have been sold in Taiwan. A lot of chips are made on that island as well, and without those chips, the high-end technology, there could be a catastrophe in selling that off towards other countries as well, where all our products are made. Also, there could be a bit of a digital breakdown with all this sort of thing. So to bolster that, the Japan and the US have been talking about pacts and extra measures. Their command structures, Operation Washington, and its age of possible conflict as well. The two militaries seen exponential increases over the last year in operations as well. So yeah, this is basically a measure that the US and Japan have worked with, and I expect Korea probably as well worked on this as well. The US and Japan relations are pretty important in many ways as well to counter a threat from China, North Korea as well, and many ways. So it's important that the US and Japan do this because to both military ties. I'd be very interested to see how military ties tie in with this Congress, because the fact that Republicans want to cut the defense spending, and they're going to have to find efficiency somewhere. Now, whether they can find, from the Pentagon, the money to afford this could be another thing. So this is going to be where moderate Republicans will not want to give up boasting ties with Japan and other countries as well to boost their own military. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this relationship develops as well. Obviously that's only 3 pages so far. Let's see if there's any other pages. But no, so let's go over some of the other ones that came out yesterday. Sunday Mail, 40 extra deaths over with expert warning of A&E catastrophe. That's way to die. That's an exclusive for them. Hospital staff forced to sleep on wards between the shifts. Obviously, this is talk about the ongoing crisis in NHS, Charlie, with with what's happening with people in their beds and everything like that. It's a major struggle as people struggle to continue to get access to the NHS. I know, and emergency services and staff struggle to control the situation. There, it's a really sad situation what's going on in the NHS, and it continues to get worse. Rishi Sunak did an interview today with Lord Kunsberg, where he sort of, he didn't really feel in touch with reality of the situation which is going on in the NHS, unfortunately. I know he talked about the 5 pledges and everything like that, but it just feels like he hasn't got a grip at the moment. He really has not got a grip. A lot of people are struggling as well. The Sunday people goes on iCrow once. That's the same Harry storyline as well. Let's go to Sunday Mirror, because Animal Law West have been talking about obviously the fact that Harry made an admission in the interview in the book where he killed 25 Taliban soldiers. He now believes that the admission of the body counts was stupid, and he thinks that it'll put it at risk to the Invictus game in September. Now, I don't think it probably will at the end of the day, because the Invictus Games is going to take place in Germany. It's not until September. I'll be honest, I don't think it'll be too much of a right at the moment, to be fair, but there could be some sorts of concern there as well. Times goes for NHS to buy care beds to clear up wards. So to clear the pressure on AE departments, the NHS is apparently going to buy thousands of beds in care homes, spare beds that are available, so that to be used there, so that they can free up, care beds and other crucial areas so that people can use these beds, as well. It's an interesting move, I have to say, as well. If it was during COVID, then I wouldn't agree with this idea, but I kind of get the point of this now. I actually think that's a good way to deal with it. Use care homes instead of actual hospitals to free up spaces where it needs to be. I actually don't mind that in many ways. I think that's a clever idea with what they're doing, and I must admit that's absolutely fine what they're doing. To be fair, I think it's a good way, efficient way to deal with beds as well. As well, the Sun Telegraph going with the same. I couldn't cry in my public when Mama died. The Express goes for that, saying that going for the opinion that Harry Revelations have put his children across hair extremists. Goodness me, that's a way to deal with it.
What is all this about? Come on.
Yeah, Prince Harry has placed his children in the crosshairs of extremists who will be looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life, say security experts. As well, so they warned the boasting King 25 Taliban insurgents have raised itself in the family. I'll also put the world's top security risks as well. And this, whoever said this, and I don't know whether they have put themselves at risk. In many ways, as long as they're sitting nicely outside in America and nowhere else, then they may well be fine. But whether it was the right thing to say or not, it will be another thing as well. I'm not really sure at the end of the day what was the right thing to say. The Observer goes for something also NHS related. They go for the fact that NHS patients will have to skip long queues by opting for private healthcare. As well, trusts offer chance to jump long queues, rapid access, risk a 2-tier system. I mean, yeah, this is the risk of a failing NHS, Charlie. When if it doesn't offer the service, then people are gonna try and go private to avoid all this time. But it's also very costly as well. The fact
very costly, exactly.
The fact that people are having to use private healthcare to avoid this sort of thing just shows you the problem the NHS is in with waiting times and being able to get service as well. It is really shocking. And finally, the Independent on Sunday goes for the pay deal needs to cut waiting lists, more nurses. Sunak demands bold action from health leaders to tackle crisis. That Sunak and ministers are meeting with departments tomorrow to discuss issues around what the situation is in their public service sectors. So trade unions are meeting, transport secretaries, health ministers are meeting health unions tomorrow. So there's a lot of meetings with unions tomorrow as well. Pay is going to be discussed. Another thing, I know this is Pat Cullen said today as well that she would be willing to go down to 10% rather than 19% to be able to get a deal. And I think that's a fairly reasonable compromise by the Royal College of Nursing and Pat Cullen there. And I think the government should consider listening to that, because I think it's a deal worth doing on that one as well. And also the fact that the Independent Sunday goes to the fact that Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker on the 15th time of asking, which is most in 1800. Republican infighting has only just started, I think, this conference trial. But that was the papers for yesterday and today. Let me just check if there's more paper. No, there's no more papers out for tomorrow so far. So that's papers today and yesterday as well.
Plenty of papers out. Let's get on and do the final part of the show now, where we're going to be talking all about this week's heroes and villains, or if you want to put it, stars and devil, the stars and the red devils, if you want to know that as well. We'll be reverting back to that for next week. But heroes and villains now. I've got a couple of heroes I would like to mention. Number one is Finley Withington for winning the Dunlop British Junior Open. I was actually there the other day. Unfortunately, I found it very, very overwhelming. I mean, that was the only bad thing about it. I was refereeing for a long time and I ended up having a 1 hour and 25-minute match after a 37-minute match. So it was a long time. We didn't finish till 11 o'clock on that last court. Some of the refs didn't. But Finley Withington today certainly giving us all a nice rest break at the end after a long weekend of refereeing by winning the British Junior Open. 3 games to love against Jonah Bryant, repeat of the BJC British Junior Championship 2022. Beating his English compatriot 3 games to love. That was after Rowan Damming got knocked out by Jonah Bryant in the semi-finals. Interestingly, the squash there as well. I'll certainly be watching that later on. And my other British star, or hero this week as well goes to this dog that I'd like to mention about. This is a dog starts 2023 in a forever home after more than 700 days at an SC dog shelter. Yes, a South Carolina dog has found his forever home. All about Animals Rescue and Transport Incorporated posted about Tucker, who they were hoping to have a home before Christmas. Tucker finally went to his new home on Monday. While the rescue dog operations will be deep missed, they're so happy for Tucker's new life begun. Tucker went to the organisation in January of 2021 after being stuck in a shelter, starved and injured. They said he's back and had been skinned with a knife, and after several burns, he'd also had cigarette burns to his body, and immediately he was moved to a vet. For more information about dogs, you can click below and find out. Oh God, I'm actually nearly in tears after reading that. That's a very, very emotional piece of news there. But I mean, this dog is at a home now. I have to say, I'm just so happy for him.
Yeah.
That he's gone home. Unfortunately, this article is a bit. I wanted to show you guys a picture. There is a dog there, guys. Oh, and this is the owner of him. I just want to say, I'm sorry, all these errors I'm having here on loading this article up, but there was a picture there of the dog with his owner. Unfortunately, the article has crashed, but that was the dog with its owner there, who gets my nomination for the star my British hero or star this week. My villains and Red Devils, or whatever you want to say, Prince Harry certainly getting the nomination for that. And also as well goes to the Jair Bolsonaro supporters that stormed Brasilia today as well. I think we have to look very closely and say that is a big problem. The capital riots certainly don't want to be repeated in Brazil. Horrendous event. I hope Brazil are okay at the moment, because supporters should not be storming Parliament. Imagine if Number 10 got stormed in Downing Street,
Yeah,
for example, or the House of Parliament in Westminster. You don't want to be doing that. It's unacceptable. I hope all those who did storm the building will face legal action. And Zach, what do you make to my nominations? What are yours for this week?
Yeah, interesting nominations. I do agree that, probably most of them I have to say. I think it's pretty much good recognition there. Right, heroes and villains this week. My hero this week, it's going to be interesting. It goes to science. It's a bit of science again. I'm going to give it to Dalton Animal Health. This is a company, a biotech company in America that have created a vaccine for honeybees. This is basically the world's first vaccine for declining honeybees. It's been approved by the US. The vaccine boosts the bees' immune system to fight against American fall-boist disease, a bacteria-based condition known to attack colonies that are caused by Panismobulus larvae. The bees are obviously critical to our food supplies as well. You may see they create a lot of honey, which we will obviously use to creating our food as well. it has not had been safe from this disease before. They had previously the only treatment for the highly contagious disease was incriminating the bees, insecticides, and all the equipment, which meant they couldn't do it anyway. But the fact is, there's now a vaccine on the way to sort this problem, which means that bees feel much more safer in the wildlife. So I'm going to give it obviously to the Dalton Animal Health and Dr. Anissa Kalesa, the CEO of Dalton Animal Health, in protecting these honeybees and safeguarding food production on a global scale as well. So I'm going to give it to them as this week's heroes for protecting our wildlife as well. It's a really good, positive, uplifting story that protecting our wildlife is so important. This is just one of them. And then the villains of the week. I struggled to think one until today, and that's today's ones are the Bolsonaro supporters for trying to create their own version of January the 6th and failing spectacularly as well. They've also done terrible tactics of even trying to do it whilst the president's in charge as well.
Oh, God.
Why? I mean, so Bolsonaro will hopefully be held to account for his supporters, and Trump will be held to account for his supporters. It continues to be the case that for America, hopefully in the Brazil, that they are held to account, these supporters, for their destructive, fascist, and violation in human, completely fascist, destructive, and insurrective actions that they've done into the Brazilian Parliament. It is awful. And they should all be held to account. So yeah, the bee vaccinators are the heroes of this week. The villains this week are Brazilian insurrectionists destroying the parliamentary and Supreme Court buildings.
Yeah, well, we can definitely say that Bolsonaro supporters get the nomination without a doubt. I mean, what were they trying to do? Destroying Brazilian Parliament itself. Yeah, not great as well. That is it for my show, guys. Also, please note there is going to be a space launch in the UK in a couple of days' time. I just want to update you on that. There is a planned space launch taking place in the UK. It's the first orbit launched from Virgin Orbit. That will be taking place at Cornwall tomorrow. Launch window opening at 10:16. So we'll keep you updated with all the news next week on how that mission is ongoing. Thank you so much for watching the Charlie Tolhurst Show. We'll see you again next weekend for another episode. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Good night.